Comic Boom here to review Justice League issues 1 through 5. Issue 5 culminating in the appearance, or more of a focus on the Legion of Doom. Right out of the pages of metal, we had the source wall destroyed in the DC Universe, unleashing darkness all over the DC Universe, but more specifically, there was something unbeknownst to all of us hidden in the source wall. And what was hidden in the source wall was something called the Totality, and the Totality basically flew toward the Earth and has landed on the Earth, and it's a harbinger of the release of 7 nefarious forces throughout the multiverse. And what are these 7 forces? Well, that's revealed in the pages of Justice League, and we only know what 2 of them are so far. One of them is the first force is called the Still Force, which is the opposite of the Speed Force, and Lex Luthor, basically, he's given that to Gorilla Grodd, who is the enemy of the Flash. And then the second force that we're aware of is the Ultraviolet Core. The Ultraviolet Core is something that was given to Sinestro, basically given to Sinestro by Lex Luthor to basically use against the Green Lantern Corps, his old enemies, the Green Lantern Corps, and then specifically against John Stewart, who's a member of the Justice League. Guys, Lex Luthor has turned evil again. He was a good guy in Rebirth. He was a good guy even before Rebirth, coming into Rebirth, but you know, he's abandoned that. After the events of Justice League No Justice, when they fought the Omega Giants, upon hearing the revelation that life was nothing but entropy and life was hopeless and everything else, and that was all from the fallout of Justice League No Justice, Lex Luthor decided, you know what, enough of this trying to embrace the light, enough of this trying to be a good guy. He went and he did soul searching, and Lex Luthor said, screw it, I'm going to embrace who I really am. I'm an evil bastard. I'm going to enjoy it. And so he began to recruit members for his Legion of Doom, and he did so, and he recruited the Cheetah, he recruited the Joker, he recruited Black Manta, and he even went to Vandal Savage. But he decides that Vandal Savage, he discovers, was aware of a secret. Vandal Savage, he discovers, was aware of a secret that Lex Luthor's own father, Lionel Luthor, knew, and that was basically that there was something hidden in the source wall. Now, what is it that's hidden in the source wall? Well, that's what this Totality is. And so what we're getting here is sort of a rewriting a little bit of the DC history of the multiverse, because we don't just have the multiverse. We have the multiverse, which we know consists of 52 different Earths, and that's a long, convoluted history, of course. But you can get that by reading Multiversity, where there's a multiverse map. You can read the pages of Metal to know that the flip side of the multiverse is the Dark Universe, and it was the Dark Universe that was unleashed in the pages of Metal, that Batman unleashed, and we discovered that there's 10 different types of metals that have strange properties in the DC Universe. Metals like the Nth Metal that gives Hawkman his abilities, and Nth Metal is also used by various other parties and heroes and villains throughout the DC Universe. And we have different types of these metals: promethium, batmanium, and there's multiple metals that were described in Metal and how they all interacted, and the interaction of these metals and Batman's actions and Hawkman's actions and the infiltration of the Dark Universe. It basically resulted in the destruction of the source wall. The combination of all these metals, and as well as a final metal called Batmanium in the pages of Metal, basically opened up the Dark Universe, and we had the Batman Who Laughs, who came into our universe with all his sort of Batman-related villains from other areas of the Dark Universe. The heroes of the Justice League, the heroes of the DC Universe, were barely able to defeat the villains of Metal and the Batman Who Laughs, but they managed to defeat him. But it destroyed the source wall. The destruction of the source wall has revealed what the source wall was actually hiding. The purpose of the source wall has always been somewhat mysterious. Nobody knew exactly what it was. All we kind of knew is that the source wall existed to sort of separate, to keep all the multiverse, to keep all the individual universes to basically keep them. It helps with keeping them at bay and helping everything sort of structured, and it's sort of like the foundations in many ways of the entire multiverse. So when the source wall was destroyed, it opened up our universe to the dark universe, but it also released something else. And what's revealed in the pages here of Justice League is that it releases these 7 forces, but we only know what 2 of them are. One of them is the Still Force, the opposite of the Speed Force, and the other one is the Ultraviolet Core. Now, there are still 5 forces that we don't know what they are yet. We don't know what the other 5 forces are. That's yet to be revealed in the pages of Justice League. And so I'm really curious to know what those other forces are. If you guys know, please let me know. There's been a little bit of spin-off and run-off in the pages of Flash, where the Still Force has been utilized and addressed somewhat in the pages of Flash, specifically the Flash War. But as it was used here, the Still Force was used by Lex Luthor and Gorilla Grodd to basically manipulate the Flash to use the Still Force to open up and release the second force, which was the Ultraviolet Core Force. Now, the other 5, we don't know what they are, but we have some clues, and one of the clues we have is that Lex Luthor specifically recruited the various members of the Legion of Doom because he felt that they were the embodiment of the various forces. Specifically, Sinestro could be the embodiment of the Ultraviolet Core, and Gorilla Grodd would be the holder of the Still Force. And for whatever reason, they had particular personality traits that would make them ideal to wield those forces. Now, what kind of force, unknown force, could the Cheetah wield? What kind of force would the Joker wield? You would think that we're talking about a chaos force, probably for the Joker of some kind, or for the Cheetah, maybe a mythological force for the Cheetah. Black Manta, maybe some sort of aquatic multiversal force that he would take control of. I don't know what it is, but it's interesting to know. It's interesting how all this is sort of coalescing, and this totality that was released from the source wall, when it was released from the source wall, it only took 3 minutes to hit the Earth. And that took place in issue 1 of Justice League. And John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, warned the Justice League telepathically. They had a telepathic meeting saying, look, this massive totality is going to be hitting the Earth in 3 minutes. We got to stop it. But they made the decision, John's made the decision that, you know what, we don't know if this totality is bad. So why don't we, let's let it hit the Earth and see what happens, and we'll deal with the fallout then. That's basically what they did, because they never had much time to stop it anyway. So they took a chance and they let the totality hit the Earth, and essentially what the totality was, it was contained almost it's like a giant head, a giant head of a figure, crash landed in a desert on the Earth, and it was surrounded by an energy field, and it's that energy field that embodied the totality, and all the various forces were within it. Unfortunately, anybody who tries to enter that field, it was revealed in issues 2 and 3 of Justice League, anyone who enters it becomes sort of poisoned and taken over by the totality, and you become sort of a slave to the forces within the totality. The only way to penetrate it was through Superman and Martian Manhunter, because they both had the physiology to withstand their being taken control of by the totality. And so what they did was that Batman hid himself in the body of Superman, shrunk down, used the Atom's shrinking power to shrink down and be in sort of a little spaceship in the bloodstream of Superman. And meanwhile, Kendra Saunders, Hawkgirl, is in another ship in Martian Manhunter's body. But unbeknownst to them, as they're penetrating the totality contained in this, which is this force field on Earth, Lex Luthor has also managed to find his way into Superman's body microscopically, and the Joker somehow found his way to hide on the ship and where that Hawkgirl was on in Martian Manhunter's body. What happened is they're making it to the source within the totality, within that energy field, and the Joker, of course, takes over the ship, renders Hawkgirl unconscious, but is under orders not to kill Hawkgirl. Otherwise, we know he's Joker, he probably would. Luthor has plans for Hawkgirl. We don't know what they are, but he doesn't want Joker to kill her yet. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor has incapacitated Batman ship. Batman is somewhere unprotected within Superman's body, being attacked by Superman's antibodies. We don't know if Batman's going to survive. And meanwhile, Lex Luthor has managed to take over the mind of Superman via, well, just by being inside Superman's body and being able to do that. And so they're moving toward, between the Joker controlling Martian Manhunter and Superman essentially, and Lex Luthor controlling Superman, they're moving toward finding the secrets of the totality, and instead of likely trying to keep those other forces at bay or releasing them in such a way that's not harmful, Lex Luthor, of course, wants to release the remaining 5 forces of the totality to be controlled by the members of the Legion of Doom. So guys, this is a really epic tale. This is really good. Now, I do have a criticism of it. I do think it's a little bit confusing. I had to reread these 5 issues, these first 5 issues, a couple of times to sort of get a handle on it. And I admit, maybe I've missed something. And if I have, guys, feel free to correct me, correct any misapprehensions I have. I very much welcome being corrected when I am mistaken. I hate being wrong and misreading a story. It's always a little bit embarrassing, but I do it more than once, and so please feel free to correct me. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. When I'm wrong, I just want to be corrected. But so far, I really like what I'm reading. This is really heading toward an epic, I think, finale here. Scott Snyder has his own YouTube channel. Check out Scott Snyder's YouTube channel. He explains and gives hints as to where the direction of the story is going. He wants us to understand this, and I think for the most part, the story is there. He has individual issues here. One issue is dedicated, half of it, to telling the story of Sinestro. As a young, Sinestro used to be an archaeologist, and he looked into and he heard rumors of the legend of the Ultraviolet Corps, but of course, he thought maybe it was just legend, that it was rumor, and so when he found out that it was actually true that the Ultraviolet Corps actually existed, but that essentially it was trapped within the totality that was contained in the source wall, but now it's been released, Lex Luthor helped Sinestro become the embodiment and to be the leader of the Ultraviolet Corps. And of course, there's more focus as we move forward. The first four issues dealt with the members of the Justice League. I believe Scott Snyder said that the next few issues are going to focus on each individual villain of the Legion of Doom to give us an idea as to maybe what kind of force they're going to be wielding. Because we got the 2 out of the 7 forces, 2 we know: the Still Force controlled by Gorilla Grodd, the Ultraviolet Corps by Sinestro. There's 5 other forces, we're not sure what they are yet, but we also got other members of the Legion of Doom that want to have they want a piece of the pie, and Luthor did promise him a piece of the pie. He promised them they're going to get what they want. So guys, this is really exciting. So check out the pages of Justice League. This is really leading to what I think is going to be it's already an exciting read. It's not quite as clear and concise as I find the Avengers is, but it is infinitely more, I think, accessible than Infinity Wars. Infinity War's countdown was I felt very inaccessible. This is a little more accessible than that, and I think it's building to something a little bit more epic. Although I have to admit, though, Requiem cutting off Thanos' head, that was pretty good. But we got some pretty epic moments here too, guys. So check out Justice League. It's Scott Snyder's doing a pretty good job here. And say hi to Lex. I had to look at that, huh? Isn't that a good statue? Lex is finally returning to his evil self in the pages of Justice League. He went into the future and he saw what the future held, and he was kind of embarrassed that apparently he missed something. He missed a revelation during his lifetime. Somebody in the future tells him that he missed a big revelation during his lifetime, and so he went and he reviewed his tracks, and he reviewed his life, and he looked over all kinds of different things, and he discovered that, yes, he missed the totality. And of course, that's what leads into this adventure. Guys, epic story, epic, well worth the read. So check out Justice League issues 1 through 5 just to whet your appetite and continue reading it. And until next time, Comic Boom out.